Good morning, good afternoon, good night. Whatever time you're watching this, as always, thanks for watching Common Sense Talks. So, tonight's video live stream, I want to talk to you guys and gals about the World Economic Forum, about the upcoming recession, housing market crash, about food shortages, supply shortages, and so much more, and how it may all tie together. So, strap on your belt buckle, put on your tinfoil hats, and let's get ready to launch off. Thanks for watching Common Sense Talks. Smash that like and subscribe if you're new here. Thank you very much. Leave a comment. Let me know how you think we're doing. And pretty open community here. We talk about all kinds of cool, fun stuff. But tonight, I want to talk about something very, very important to me. So, we're going to start off kind of backwards. We're going to work our way backwards through this story. And we're going to start with a, a comparison, so to speak. So, we're going to say if I told you that I have a goal, and that goal is to make sure that everybody wears green. And I tell you that I'm going to go sabotage all the blue, red, orange, and yellow factories. I'm going to mess with the colors. I'm going to purposely try to make everything green. I'm going to influence and mess with every facet and form of it that I can until everybody is wearing green. And I tell you this, right? Then lo and behold, the yellow ink factory blows up. Then the red ink factory blows up. Then the blue ink factory melts down. Then the orange ink factory goes out of business. And then the clothing industry say you can only wear green, brown, and purple. You're starting to get there. And then next thing you know, you can only wear green. And then someone tells you, that that that's their like that's why they told you, this was their plan all along. And it's like, and then you go, no, 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 it's just unfortunate. This is just how it worked out. That's kind of it may be a bad analogy, but that's what seems like's going on. For example, the World Economic Forum, some of the richest, most powerful elite in all of the world, like the Vanderbilt or the Builder Bill Vanderbilt group or whatever, and all the other guys that meet and that are like rich billionaire, trillionaire type guys. Well, there ain't no trillionaires, but they're $1 trillion companies. But like Blackwater and BlackRock and stuff like that, and was a couple other big companies like that that own like all of the world's wealth pretty much. Um, but anyways, the World Economic Forum, if you haven't heard this saying, has told us that you will own nothing and you will be happy. And they mean that they're literally tell us that we want the world to have less people in it. Then what happens? A pandemic. And then rules like instead of being smart about it, it's like let's put sick patients in with nursing homes with old people, like, and then 15,000 or more died in New York. It was like, what? It's like they're telling us that the world's going to end if we don't stop farting cows. So green emissions. So they got things like we're going all electric. It's just they're going crazy. They're going overboard, right? Uh, it's just so nuts what's happening in the initiative to push green, right? But they told us all this was going to happen. They told us that we're literally going to make it to where we don't want you to own anything and you're going to be happy. They're talking about eating bugs, even. There's stories about that. And essentially, one by one, sure enough, though, they're doing exactly what they said. So the World Economic Forum, this big group of rich, powerful people, has come together and has said things specifically about the country, about the economy, about all kinds of stuff, and say that they're going to do these things. And lo and behold, these things happen. And when they do, you're called a conspiracy theorist if you point out that they said they were going to do it and now it's happened. How is this? Like, what? Like, oh my God, it's nuts. Excuse me. These people are just insane. So you have the World Economic Forum, right? These people like Justin Trudeau, people like George Soros, no bail reform, all that crazy stuff. This have this crazy vision of what they see the future of. And in order to get there, they don't care what it takes. To them, the ends justify the means. So if they have to enslave, kill, torture, and hurt a bunch of people and do bad things, if they can achieve their utopia that they're thinking of, it will all be justified. So the road to heaven, or sorry, the road to hell is paved with good intentions. People trying to do good, right? And so what you got going on right now is a perfect storm. You have the housing market is about to crash. If you don't understand this or see this, I don't understand. Like, I mean, if you're anything in realty or property or just any of that kind of investing, you got to understand and see that property values are bubbled and spiked at an all-time high. The property value doesn't match the 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 spike or the increase in pay. Let's say isn't nowhere near as big as the increase in cost of living, so it's becoming more and more out of reach. So the average person is making a little bit more, but not much more. But homes are becoming double, triple, quadruple as expensive. Not to mention, you have giant companies like Blackwater or BlackRock, I mean, coming in and Vanguard and stuff like that, and they're buying entire neighborhoods up. Or they're coming in and you see this quaint little home. It's $200,000, and you're like, oh, I can afford that. Great. And you put in for 200,000, and boom, here comes Vanguard or BlackRock, and they put 300,000, 350,000 cash, boom, paid right now. No seller in their right mind is going to take the normal family. They're going to sell to the 3 or 350. And then a lot of time they don't even know who they're selling to. They just know they got this offer. So these giant companies are buying up all the homes. Why is that? Because they don't want you to own anything. You're going to live in pods. They want us in little cramped places. They want us all in cities. They want us easy to control. They want us spaced together. They want us congregated. We're easy to surveil. We're easy to spy on. We're easier to control. We're easier to pin up, and we can get a lot of work done and be productive, right? Massive cities can have massive factories and big businesses and a lot of stuff churning out, right? While at the same time, they can have all these people there that are under their thumb. And it's like they're anti, they say they're for the environment, but doing that just creates more pollution. But in their mind, they're saying that if you have more people together now, there's a little grocery store here and there. So instead of driving, you ride your bike. And then instead of driving, you walk. There's a park right there. You walk. Your job is right here. You take the or you ride a bike. There's almost no reason to drive in a city like New York, right? And there is some truths to that. But look how dangerous that city is right now. How crazy it is. People getting sucker punched, murdered, killed, stabbed, robbed, raped on trains, and people recording it, not doing anything. It's nuts. The world is falling apart, right? And the World Economic Forum, tying it all back, they've said that their goal is in order to create this new world order, they have to do away with the old. And more than likely, because of Americans having a 2A right, because of us being a specific way, that means that going forward, we can't be the top dogs anymore. Because, see, these elites, they rule and they live on a level above us, above you and me. You and me, we think city by city, state by state, country by country. These rich people see the whole world as their playground, and they want to control it all. And not just every one of them, right? They can't all rule the world and all fight each other. They work together for their similar interests. So you have giant groups of rich, powerful people that work together to assure that they always stay rich and powerful, and that they have ways of being above the rules, above the laws, hard to touch. I mean, why are they going after Ronald Grump for whatever, but yet, uh, you know, Hillary Stanton got to smash, you know, evidence and destroy evidence and do much worse. They don't even have anything they can come out and definitively say against Ronald Grump and say, this is what you did wrong, Ronald. You did all this, that, and this, and you have this. They're just something about documents we don't know, redacted, redacted. Like, what the hell? Well, military Stanton over there, body count 30 something, people committing suicide with shots to the back of their head around them people. Oh, the devil herself, right? Destroying evidence, getting caught with it. Oh, and they all call me, we can't there's no reason to prosecute her. She didn't mean to do anything wrong. There was no intent. So, it's a big club and me and you ain't in it, right? And that's kind of how things always are. The elite rule, and we drool. We are the petty folks on whose back these people stand. The machine is grinded and fed us. We are the power source. We are the blood, the backbone of this country. Its military, its taxes, its finances, its ability to do what it does comes from us average everyday Joes. But we've abdicated that ability and chose for safety. Like ever since 9/11, then the Patriot Act, we chose that we would rather give up our freedoms to be safe. And I don't know if it's Ben Franklin or which one of them, but they said those or who would give up their freedoms to be safe shall be neither. They won't be free and they won't be safe, because eventually, by passing the Patriot Act, we allowed the government to make us like one of the most less free countries on the world now. We think we're the home of the land, free and brave, but the Patriot Act actually gives our government the supreme ultimate power that we have no idea what the government can truly really do in the name of the Patriot Act. And if we tried to say that's not constitutional, you can't do that, government can't do that, they won't do that, right? Then why would they need to write laws that say they can in this case or that case? And why are all of a sudden they calling half of America terrorists or like potential terrorists, or they calling them, bad things and all this and that just because you supported somebody, right? This is crazy. Before our eyes, we are watching our country divulge into something that is akin to like a communist uh, collapse, socialism, communism, the collapse of meritocracy, of let he or she who has the greatest merit or skill win. And now it's hire this guy or that gal because they're black, white, Mexican, Asian, whatever, or because they're bi, transgender. They check this box or that box. What happened if you wanted the best pilots, regardless if you had an all white pilot force? Who cares? They're all black. Who cares? Race diversity does not matter. Skill does. That's why almost all the NBA players are black. That's why a lot of the NFL is black. I mean, be honest, because a lot of they unfortunately by slavery were bred actually, a lot of them, to be just physically badass by fucking racist white slave owners. Take the biggest and baddest slaves and breed them with the biggest and baddest women and have the biggest and baddest kids and repeat that over and over for a couple hundred years, and you got some dudes who are just badass. And that's just being honest. No dig on African American or black people or anything. That was an unfortunate side effect, or not. It wasn't not an unfortunate. It was a side effect of an unfortunate thing, right? Slavery and breeding, and eugenics, basically. So we created a race of people who are, in a sense, usually better at sports and athletics, right? So, but we only whine about it when it's the white male, right? And for anyone, I'm not the white male. I'm Native American, actually. Yeah, I'm white too, but I'm mixed. You look at me, you say, "Well, you're white." Well, what is white? Just like what's Asian? Well, you got many different races. You have Korean, Japanese, Chinese, Hmong, Mien, Lao, Cambodian, Laotian, Thai. What are you talking about, right? And where's white? Are you French, Dutch, Armenian? Are you Russian? Are you German? Are you French? Are you Irish? Are you English? Are you Scottish? What the hell? Spaniard, Italian, all of those would be considered white down there nowadays if you had seen those European white, blonde hair, blue eyed Spaniards, right? So just same thing with Native Americans. There's many different tribes and versions, not all the same, living very different ways, speaking different languages, having different cultures, and even having different looks, different facial features, right? We're not all the same. It's okay. It's okay to be different. Love yourself for who you are, right? We should should succeed in life based on our abilities and our skills, not on whether or not we have this body part or that, or this pigmentation or that. Shouldn't matter. That's just BS, right? So, but you look at things and the whole world's falling apart and it all seems planned. When the World Economic Forum and these rich people talk about the Great Reset, look it up. The Great Reset. And in order for the Great Reset to happen, they have to collapse current society. And it does not everything that's happening look like it's on purpose. Like, what kind of bonehead approves Russian Nord Stream 2.0 pipeline and allows Russia this gas line? We were blocking it, and then we signed off on it, knowing all this shit was going to unfold, knowing they were messing with Ukraine, already took Crimea, and then blocked our own pipeline, said nope, no drilling, no pipeline. So our supply dried up, and then saying no more releases on federal land. And so then all these policies that immediately basically create instant changes in the gas prices. You can see them as soon as he comes into office, gas starts shooting up. You think that's just accidental? No. And then they stay high, and they've been high. Pushed for all electric, California banning the sale of gas vehicles by 2035. You will own nothing and you will be happy because you're not going to be able to afford an electric vehicle. You're going to have to rent one. You're going to have to lease one. You're not going to own one. And if you do, right, they're making things so expensive. How long until you have to sell what you got to get by? They're going to have it balanced out to where literally they figure out just how to drain us just enough that we live and we have things like video games and the internet and porn and crap to keep us happy. But we have this mundane jobs where we consume when we're not working, and then when we are, we're producing and consuming like some viruses, like yeast farting ourselves to death in a jar, right? Just it's insane. And you look at, let's tie all this back together. So you look at how all this seems planned. It seems like there's just way too much going wrong, and in such a way that it's obvious that, like, that's not what you should be doing. Like, people, it's like, wait a minute, when someone has a tool belt and all these tools and they claim to be a window repairman, but you see them with a baseball bat walking around smashing out windows, at a moment you kind of realize what's going on. You're like, wait a minute, this dude's not here to fix stuff, he's here to break it, right? You can put two and you don't have to be a rocket scientist to put two and two together. And that's what's going on. More everyday Americans are waking up to the craziness of what's going on. And so, and you look at the fact that in 2006, 2007 was the recession in 2007, but it really hit hard in 2008. Well, if you look at, hey, what's up, Charles Chuck? If you look at the recession, I'm about to get into housing prices right now. This is the scary part. If you look at the recession in 2007 to 2008, housing prices were at a peak Work was at a peak. People were at a peak, right? They were at a certain point. Well, the recession kicked in, things started going downhill and getting worse, right? Well, from that peak in 2007 and 6, when things were good, to when the recession started and it fell off, the valley, the recession lasted from 2007, 2008, all the way to 2012. And I'll explain. So follow me here. So we're going to use my house pricing to give you guys an explanation. Yep, it's going to be hard, but if you follow this, you will be in a certain amount of time. So a home was worth a half a million to $400,000 in 2006, 2007. Housing market was sky high. They were building houses everywhere. New housing development was popping up all over town. The recession hit, then homes went to 450, then 400, then 300, then 350. Next thing you know, a home that was legit selling for 420,000 is now $160,000. But that point from that slide, from the peak to the valley, was from 2007 to 2012. That was a 5 year difference from the peak to the valley. Now, fast forward 2012, valley, home prices were at their lowest. Instantly between 2012 and 2013, home prices everywhere started slowly rising, and then rising and rising and rising. And now, due to inflation, I'm damn near almost hyperinflation, down to all these other factors, housing prices are extremely high. All the rules and red tape to build a home, the permits, the costs, the fact that the pandemic, the shipping delays, all of the problems with material, with shipment, homes are not are wood price went up, the cost of screws went up, glass went up, everything's gone up. So now to build a home, the cost has even went up. And so, and then housing developments, they can take a year, 2 to 3 to get planned, sold, build, da da da. So they plan for this housing development, 1,000 homes. It's going to take X amount of lumber, X amount of nails, X amount of air conditioners, electrical, plumbing, blah, blah, blah. It's going to take all this. This is what's going to cost us. And then we're going to build these homes, and then we're going to sell them for X, and then we'll make some money. Then they start building, and then all of a sudden, price now wood is, instead of $2, is $5. Now that to build a home, instead of $20,000 in lumber, now it's $50,000 in lumber. What the hell, right? So now, do you think they can sell that home for the same price? And the same thing happened to the copper, happened to the aluminum, it happened to the wiring, it happened to the appliances, it happened to the wood, it happened to the concrete, it happened to everything. All prices went up across the board to build homes. So now you got into a contract to build and make a home 3 years ago, and you bid, and the home was $150,000 or it's 200,000. Now though, that home's going to cost 225,000. They're going to have to sell it to you for 400,000 just to make any money, right? Because everything's gone up. So there's all these catch 22s going on right now. So building has stopped. Look all around you. Building of new homes has ceased to exist. I'll bet you anything. So almost all new housing developments have just slowed down and stopped. You'll look at the commercial developments are still slightly moving along. They'll take a little bit slower to slow down, but they'll do the same thing. And the housing market, though, building is just slowing down. Sales are slowing down. Prices are starting to come down. The recession is here. The economic impact is starting. It's going to take a while before it hits its valley, before the worst of the worst, right? It could get a lot worse. So, and how could it get worse? Well, in 2007, when things went belly up, we were only in so much debt. Between 2007 and now, we're over 31 trillion in debt. In 2007, we were like in like 5 trillion or something like that, or 3 or 4 trillion. We were like barely in debt, like compared to what we are now. We're like 10 times worse in debt. So we have all this default, right? We have all this debt. the interest on it alone is more than what our debt was in 2007, damn near, right when the economy crashed. So imagine what it's going to be now. And there's so much more. Mostly it was centered on the housing market and all the loans and all that. Well, this time you've got 31 trillion in debt. You've got everything inflated like that. You've got the housing market, you've got commercial real estate, you've got pricing on everything from collectibles all the way up to cars are overpriced. Everything is just overly insanely priced. Hyperinflation is starting here, or inflation is here, and we're almost seeing what is soon to be hyperinflation. We're also seeing shrinkflation, meaning that if for the life of you you've always got a gallon of milk for $5, now instead of charging you $8 for a gallon, they're still charging you five, but they're giving you two-thirds of a gallon. Like that's, they haven't done that to milk yet, but they're doing that to cereal, mac and cheese boxes, like all kinds of canned foods, every kind of good you can think of. They're actually keeping either the box or the things the same or similar size. They're just filling it slightly less, a couple less ounces. When you multiply that over the millions of boxes they sell, they are then able to generate hundreds of thousands, or if not millions, of more boxes free off the excess that they shaved off of everything else, in a sense, if that makes sense. So they are able to basically recoup their losses. That's how they're raising their prices, because they know that the standard person may not necessarily have to eat cornflakes or raisin bran or Cheerios or whatever in the morning. And that if we had to, rather than die, we could eat like, oatmeal or something else if we really had to, right? Or we had to, we would eat this or that, but we would prefer to have this or that, right? So it's a luxury. So the price has to be affordable enough for us to be able to buy it, but yet they're getting so pricey that they're almost pricing us out of food, even, right? People are having to take loans out to be able to afford to fill their refrigerator. If you don't have EBT, food stamps, or any kind of government assistance, and you're working a 9 to 5, a regular old job, you got some credit card, car payment, a house payment, whatever, you got family, you got to pay for this, do that, you got repairs on vehicle here or there, the repairs on the home, whatever, right? You got insurance, your cell phone, you got all this crap, and then now you got to go buy food, and food now is like $1,000 a month to feed a small family, or even worse. So food is quadrupled or tripled, in the last 2 years or so. It's gotten insane. So just the average person is really hurting financially, economically, right? And you look at the fact that, like I said, the housing market is about to crash, or is in crashing. It's crashing as we speak. It's just going to take a while before it really shows its ugly head, and it is slowly falling. It may fall at a faster rate, but then when you look out over a course of a couple of years, and now your $400,000 home is worth 160 again, well, then you'll find yourself, back in that boat. How did we get here? Well, here we are. So that period of time is going to be about 5 years, I would say. And that's if it goes on track to the similar recession. Otherwise, we might be in this boat much longer, if we don't. And usually, typically, how countries have almost always pulled themselves out of recession is through war. Um, it's insane, but look at it. Statistically, a lot of the times, countries go through unrest when they go through recession. They go through civil unrest, civil war, or they go to war with other countries. They need resources, they need things, they're hurting. That's just is just usually bad times, right? So um, again, you look at everything. We got the housing market about to crash. You've got the recession economically, right? With the fact that now, when everything hits the fan, it's going to be hard to get a loan. It's going to be hard to buy a car. It's going to be hard to get approved for new things. So the economy will start grinding to a halt, because people will start saving their money. They will start hoarding. Afraid. They can't play as loose now, because tomorrow is not guaranteed, type thing. They're going to start saving. They're going to start becoming more frugal. So now, instead of eating out more, they're going to eat at home more, which means more restaurants are going to go out of business. to eat out, so choosing their family and their livelihood over their favorite place to eat a steak or eat some Mexican food for the week, that's going to go away, right? And it's going to be things like that, and it'll be slowly. Then maybe video games. You can't afford the newest console, so now you're stuck playing the old video games, and the new crowd moves on, right? But slowly but surely, we're going to find ourselves in a boat where most of our amenities are being taken away or harder and harder to maintain. Think about it this way, you know, 50 years ago, 60 years ago, a family could survive with the father working, the mom staying at home raising the kids, and then at the end of the day, they could afford to own a vehicle. They could even own their house, and they could even put the kids through college. And they didn't live rich. They didn't go on any fancy schmancy vacations much, but they lived happy. They didn't want for much. And thanks for hanging out and watching. You know, they were able to get by, but you look at what the average everyday person now has. Now we have internet bills. Now we have cell phone bills. Now we have our car bills like we had then, but back then you didn't have to have insurance. So now we got our insurance bills. But then we got our insurance on our cell phones because our cell phones are 500. Then we got internet, right? But that's not good enough because we don't want cable because cable is expensive. So we have internet, but then we have Hulu, then we have Disney Plus, then we have Netflix. Hello, nice to see you on, Mike. Then we have this and that streaming service, right? Then we have our house payment, right? Then we have insurances and things that we may not have had back in the days and red tape, right? We have property taxes, Belarus taxes, other type of taxes, pleasure taxes on your vehicles, or if you have a boat, or certain rides that are considered like pleasure or luxury items can be taxed now. Um, just think about the average everyday Joe. And if you have a couple credit cards, and then one day, you know, you're living paycheck to paycheck, and it's your wife's birthday and you wanted to get her something nice, but you don't have that much money, so you used a credit card. But you pay your minimums or a little bit above, and then one day your tire blows and you need, next thing you know, your credit cards are maxed out, right? Or they're pretty close, and you're constantly paying, and all you can afford to do is barely pay above the minimum, pay your rent, pay your bills, but you don't have much of a life. Most of us are living in that cycle, me included, right? A lot of the time. And so uh, think about, they've managed to get us to where now everyone in the household has to work, hustle, and figure out a way to make money. We've got to have side jobs, side hustles, internet gigs, or whatever. We've got to all try to figure out ways to make money because it's such a draining, consuming system that we're living in, right? And you look at it, and like I said, look at it through the lens that now we're about to go through a housing crash. We're going to go through a recession. Height luxuries are going to be harder to find. The fact that there's been shipping issues, the chain, trucking, supply chains. China's about to go to war with Taiwan, so we can't get chips. So getting cars that have the right chips in them so they're safe is hard right now. Getting computer systems, getting game systems, getting entertainment stuff, hard right now because we can't get that stuff. You look at how life for the average everyday American's changing. We've never seen empty shelves like we've seen before. We're half of the food in the store is gone, half of the supplies are gone. And some of the scary stuff is also right now Ukraine is like the second biggest supplier in the world, and you think that's not going to hurt us. It won't much because we're fine. We produce a lot of food, but from all the other countries in the world that need food, that would have normally got their wheat and their grains from those areas that are right now in turmoil. Now people, the countries that care like us and others, are going to have to give up a bunch of our supply to help these other people, and we can't feed the whole entire world. There's going to be a nasty food shortage right now. There's global shortages on fertilizer. So one of the things is there's also droughts going on in a lot of the fertile areas of the world that are usually best farmland, like Central Valley, California. Huge drought, so we're not able to produce as much as normal. Secondly, there's fertilizer is way more expensive, so farmers are skimping. So when you skimp on the fertilizer, now instead of getting 1,000 whatever pounds of corn per acre, now you're going to get 500 or whatever. So you're going to have less food produced this fall because of shortages. And then you're going to have more people that need food, but less of it available. Then you have places like the Dutch and other areas in the world where the people who are like the green people who care about the environment. Look, I care about the environment and I want to keep Earth great as well. But the people that have gone so far loony, they literally have told the farmers, you've got to stop farming because all the nitrogen that you're using is killing the earth. And then your farting cows are killing the earth. So you can't farm only this much, and you can only. And what's happening is the Dutch are like also one of the world's biggest food exporters, and they were actually like held at gunpoint by the government to not farm. They got told to stop farming. I think they even shot bullets at one of the guys who were in his farming tractor, and it's crazy. So they basically told these guys you can't grow food. Oh, sorry. So the farming the farming issue is bad. There's going to be some bad food shortages coming. Uh, they say that this fall is going to be bad, but next year is going to be horrendous because we're going to be looking at fertilizer shortages, crop shortages, smaller yields, and then when we go to plant next year, we're going to have even less food, even less seed, even less fertilizer, and if certain things do pop off, China messes with Taiwan. I mean, the situation's just going to get exacerbated. It's going to get much worse. And right now, the world, I think, but especially America, we're looking at a time here that we haven't ever seen in our generation, or at least in most of us who are alive. We're about to see some really tough times where you're going to have to make decisions when you have X amount of money every month, but every year the power bill to keep cool in your house goes up and up and up. And every year is hot as shit, and you keep running that AC, and your bill keeps going up. And one year you try your hardest, you don't run that AC, but you damn near have a heart attack. You can't breathe. It's so miserable. It's so uncomfortable. So hell no, you're gonna run that AC. And then when you get that bill and you can't, and you have to look at, do you cut out your AC next year, or do you look at every single time you've went out to eat with your family over the last year that you had a great, lovely time enjoying a family dinner at the little Mexican or Asian restaurant or the burger joint or the steakhouse, and now you're going to tell yourself that all that money is going to go to my PG&E bill, and now I'm not going to go out to eat this year, and you live perfectly fine, but now your rent has gone up. Now rent 5 years ago for a 4 bedroom house was like, 8 years ago it was $1,200. 5 years ago it was 13, 1,400. Now it's 2 grand, 2,200 in this shite hole Central Valley where the average pay here is like 35,000 a year, 40,000 a year, and they want rent for a 3 or 4 bedroom house to be like over 2 grand. It's insane. It's going to hit. We're at our breaking point. I mean, if you can't see it, I don't understand, but if you look at it as this bubble, or as this picture, it's a bubble. It's this one big intricate bubble, and it's about to burst. You look at the country. Look at the man. There's always been racism and stuff, but nowadays you'd swear we're back in the 50s and that there's like KKK running around everywhere. The Democrats swear all these people are blah blah. They're trying to gin up the hate, and sometimes it's genuinely working when people are getting sick of getting accused of it. And then they see shit and they're like, well, if I'm sick of this, blah blah. Next thing you know, button heads, right? The pot is getting stirred. And then, regardless of what side you are on, right? I'm not trying to. I'm a nice dude. I don't want to cause drama. But the United States right now is extremely divided. Republican and Democrat hate each other. If you voted for Biden and you're a Trump supporter, you hate the other person. If you're a Biden voter and the other guy voted for Trump, you most likely hate these people. Right now, the vitriol and the level of hate between normal everyday Americans over stuff like politics and like financial stuff and what's going on is at an insane level. The stuff with transgender stuff, with kids, with all this, and I'm not picking a side or saying what is right or wrong. I'm just saying the fact that we're fighting literally like tooth and nail over these insane issues while the world is burning theoretically is insane to me. It shows the level of insanity our country has reached, and it's frightening. It's extremely frightening. And if you look at, and if you're a historian, or you look at the you look at the trends, there's things called the fourth turning. Basically, that are like, good times make weak men, and weak men make times, and bad times make strong men. Strong men make good times, right? Like a cycle that we go through. So, the world goes to hell, right? We have World War II. Great men stand up, they save the world, they save the day, or even not that. You could take it like this: a person, could be a man or woman, builds a great empire of work and creates a big giant company, hires all these people, gets rich, makes all this money. That's generation one. That person then has a kid. That kid, while they were growing up, watched that person work hard, and maybe they came from nothing to something, right? And they elevated themselves. This kid watched that elevation and hard work, so learned a lot of it and will repeat a lot of what he's seen. But this kid, though, is born, let's say, semi rich or decent. And as he grows, let's just say he could have been born into some semi poverty too, as this generation was working up, right? But now you get to the third generation. Well, now this guy's 30 years old and he's successful. Dad's rich as hell. They've built this empire. Now they have a kid. And this kid knows nothing but rich and success. And this guy wants this kid to work hard and be like him, but doesn't 100% know how to convey it because he's seen it but didn't do it. He just kind of maintains it, right? So it's like someone made a machine, and maybe you're smart enough to know that you need to clean this, change the oil there. But if the machine blew up, are you smart enough to weld and put all the pieces back together? And are you smart? Do you know how to like really put it back together? And I'm not talking. Okay, you could be a mechanic or an HVAC guy, whatever. But I'm like talking a machine you have no experience, just some random thing, a vacuum cleaner or an alien spaceship blew up. You think you're going to put it back together or you're going to figure it out, right? So the machine, right? This creation, these riches, this success created by generation one and generation two maintained it. Generation one created it. Generation two maintain it. Generation three has no freaking clue how to create it, little bit about how to maintain it. So things start going downhill. By generation four, these guys is idiot, doesn't know nothing. We're at idiocracy. Hell breaks loose, and now the the cycle starts over, right? And you can look at that in the world's terms. Every four generations, it's called the fourth turning. Every four generations of men, we go through like World War One, World War Two were kind of the same thing. Before that was the Civil War. Then before that was a Revolutionary War. Then you look up in Europe and you look at these other places. Every about 80 years or so, 40 to 80 years, there's this massive. No, sorry, every 80 years or so, there's a massive outbreak of violence, and it actually holds true for a lot of history. Not all of it, but a lot of it. So it's an anecdotal saying, the fourth turning, stuff like that, right? And so World War II is 1945. So 80 years would be 2025. So we are coming up on our date, baby. And then you look at the fact that there's also another one called I forget what this one is, but it's when a power is rising. So whenever there's a country that basically rules an area or world or rules that known area, right? Whenever there's a power there and there's another power rising to become equally as strong, I think it's 14 out of 16 times it involved it basically devolved into a war. And the only two of the times was one country able to either keep the lead, right, without violence, or the other country was able to take the lead, right, without violence. It was done either it was done economically, right, or due to natural disasters or other things. But all the other instances, whenever there's a country who's getting all big and strong, and there's another country all big and strong, and they get to that same level, always leads to a fight. This is proven true. This is what you can, I can go back and prove it. In the last 16 incidences where we look at major superpowers, look at Rome, look at China, look at Russia, look at all these superpowers, and you had to be considered superpowers, they all got into a major war with whoever became the next superpower, right? And what's happening with China? We're the world superpower, and here comes uh, punking us. You know, we can't even get computer chips. They're about to take over Taiwan. We're so dumb. We put all because we want cheap things. We want to buy a widget and we want it to cost $150. We don't want it to cost 750 because you'd have to pay an American $45 an hour to sit on his bum and create some contraption in some factory while you can pay a Chinese worker $1.50 a day or an hour to do the same damn thing. What are you going to do if you own the business? Dude, you're going to move your factory to China. So all of our freaking production is done in Mexico, done in China, done in Vietnam, done in Korea, and then it's shipped over here so we can consume it, use it, right? And so it's this horrible off balance situation, right? And we have no means of producing anything, and they're starting all this shit up in Africa and all over the other place. So it's not looking too good, like that front world wise. Like some bad things are about to happen, in my opinion. The world is ready for some crazy change. I don't know what's going to happen. That's where I'm not going to profess to know what is going to happen, what will happen, what's going to be the outcome of it. All I could say is that generationally, just history. Look at it. If you have even any kind of inkling of history, think back. Even if like you only remember some burnout shit from like class or whatever, think back and think what you do know of history. And yeah, shit hits the fan every once in a while. And when's the last time shit really hit the fan? Because yes, in America there was death and murder and destruction in the middle of the streets during the Civil War. Yes, there was death and destruction in the middle of the streets during the Revolutionary War. And so, what's next? Yes, there was death and destruction over almost the entire planet during World War II and One. We were untouched. Will that happen if there's another one? Probably not. What's coming around the corner? I don't know. But I know financially, besides all that crazy crap that's going on with Russia, with China, with North Korea, with Iran, and the fact that for the last 40, 50 years, America's been running around the world, saber rattling, saying, we are the strong, badass, awesome Americans, and you better do as we say. And we have like 200 bases on different countries all around the world so we can give them freedom, right? And so how have we generally treated the world? We mostly use them because we live rich, we live good, we have houses, power, electricity, air conditioning, we have savings account, we have dreams, we have the American dream, we have the ability to do all this crazy shit. Why? Because of the rest of the world suffers like miserable because they produce and we consume, right? And it's a screwed up situation. Is it 100% like that? No, not really, but somewhat, right? We have such a good life here because cheap Mexican labor, because cheap Chinese labor, because cheap factories in Mexico, because of cheap factories in China. We can buy our shoes for $45 instead of having an American factory where because of the red tape, the factory took 10 billion to get built because of the city permits and because of the city bribe, they had to pay this city official that, and they had to do this permit here and that permit there, and they had to do this and that. And 3 years later, there's finally a factory getting built, and it's got to be inspected. I get safety and this and that, but then all the workers got to get paid. They got to have this and that. They have breaks. They got lunches and paid this and paid that, and blah blah. Which I'm not saying is bad, but do you think the people in China and Mexico and every other place that is not, maybe Mexico is a little better now, but some of the other third world countries, do you think they have all that crap? Hell no. So everything is made everywhere else at a cheaper price so that we can have stuff cheaper. And it has been our military and our big ass guns that have kept the whole world from changing it, right? And that's all looking like it's about to change. I'm not saying I love America, man. I love this. I'm proud to be American. I love my country. I love my fellow Americans. I just want to go and I want to wake people up on the fact that be prepared financially for what may happen with a housing market crash. Save your money, get your credit good, right? Even if the end of the world don't happen, then to buy your house. Try to hold off if you can. Just wait a few years. The housing market crash is here. It will start, it will happen, and it will snowball, and opportunities will arise to come in and get foreclosures. This is the time you need to have cash on hand. You need to have the ability to show where it came from. So make sure you're legally, safely, stacking your stuff if that's your goal, right? So be prepared. This is my advice. This is my wisdom, right? That I want to share. This is my insight. Not like I'm any better, I'm some guru and I'm fancy rich or any crap, but I'm just saying that if you're gonna buy a house, now's not the time, even if you can do it. Save your money, get even better, keep your debt cool, chill, stack your cash, and wait for the crash and go swoop up some mansion at half the price because it's foreclosure. Because someone bought a $200,000 home in reality for 500,000 or 600,000 because it's this awesome, beautiful home, and they had the ability and got the loan, but the monthly payments are 3,000 some change a month. And after one ever lost their job, now they can't afford it and all this other crap, right? So they decided to just give up the house, foreclose, go bankrupt, or do whatever. They'll start over. They'll buy a new one, or maybe someone else owns one. Whatever. You trust me. Housing market wise, there's always a silver lining. So let's talk about that. So in the housing market, when the crash happens, be prepared. This is the time to buy. Same thing in the recession. When the recession truly hits hard and things crash, look for solid companies. Look for solid investments that are down but not out. That will be the time buy. And then when things turn around and turn good, that's when I would, start to sell, basically cash in on your investment. Maybe not sell it all, but sell a little bit. That's if the dollar makes it. What's happening with cryptocurrency? Part of the title. We haven't talked about that yet tonight. But cryptocurrency, I've always been hater against. Talk about why I'm a little bit of the fan of it now, a little bit, but still kind of somewhat a hater. So I'm skeptical. I'm going to give you my pros and cons where I think is it going with it, but don't take my word. This is not financial advice. I always thought the idea of what crypto was, it is blockchain technology. It is kind of something, but in reality, it is nothing. There is no exchange for it. You cannot say, hey, you know what? I decided I want my crypto. I want to hold it. I want it in my hand. Can I have my Bitcoin? I don't think they physically actually have one. And even if they did, what are you going to do with it, right? Say it's worth just $1 or it's worth a million. What value does it have as an actual currency when, especially when it was first invented, it was just created out of thin air? And I get the principle that it's like based on blockchain or it's based on technology, but like what technology and like what's its value? And then if something were to ever go wrong, if our grid were to go down, if a bad pandemic or really something bad were to happen, power outages, something like Bitcoin wouldn't be really worth that much, would it? Because you need power to transact it. Well, cash you can deliver in a power outage. You can still, give cold hard cash, right? You don't need power to accept cash, but you do to do credit, debit, or crypto. Another negative about crypto is that it's 100% trackable. So there will be no side hustle. There will be no government not knowing. They will know everything. They will know what you spend, when you spend, where you spend, how you spend. Crypto is unbelievably traceable. So there's no privacy involved with crypto, but there is the fact that it's not centrally controlled. It's blockchain technology, and that right now no government controls it or can print it out of thin air. There's only a finite amount of it. So if the world doesn't end, if things eventually settle out, and this is my prediction here, if things actually start taking positive turns, and if the economy starts to correct itself, if the government can start to correct itself, if we can bring the debt down, if we can calm the violence, if world war don't break out, if we get some leadership that is firm but yet understanding, and we have better diplomacy, if we actually address issues like the border, if we actually start taking care of things that really matter, but do it in a humane, good way, not just like a Republican side or Democrat side, do it in an independent, what's right or wrong kind of aspect, and stop looking at this as a polarized subject. And I mean, not just this, but everything in life. Then yeah, I think crypto is going to skyrocket in price eventually, like cyberpunk price. Like it's going to be like the technology exchange of the future. It's going to be the money of the future, right? Where it's like everything's online and digital. But I I don't know. That's a possibility. But in that same realm, um, of the fact of that it's decentralized, government may not let that fly, it may not let it slide. If the government decides it doesn't like crypto, and we're talking the American government truly doesn't, or the people who run the stuff behind the scenes, then crypto is not going to make it. It's going to become this, it's going to drop in price. It may always be there, but it won't be what it was supposed to be. The government will ensure that because they invaded countries and kill people for things that they need. They'll make sure they take care of crypto if they have to. It all really depends on what the government is willing to allow or won't allow. And that's as we stand because we pretty much rule the world, right? America is the number one superpower. So as of now, it's what we say and do and dictate. So crypto is a ball that is kind of tossed up in the air depending on who's controlling the government and what kind of economic and financial decisions are made and whether or not we even remain the number one superpower, right? Because then crypto is probably not going to have a very strong future if China and someone else becomes like the number one superpower. Then whatever they say is going to go basically, right? So with crypto being decentralized, that's not going to be I think, a positive net in its benefit for if China or someone else is the new ruling force of the world. But that's a lot heavy to think about, and so that's a if this or if that. So I'm kind of standoffish on crypto. I don't really want to dump much more money into it, but I'm not selling. If you have it, I'd just recommend if you don't have a ton of money in it, just hold on to it, see what happens. I always think the number one investment is realty. So if you can buy on any kind of dip, the realty always goes through cycles. It always goes through waves. It goes through ups and downs. It's like alternating current. I can see it like an electrician or like a technician can see an electrical signal. You just look at it like a graph. You can print one up and see what housing prices do. They go up, they go down, they go up, they go down, they go up, they go down. But they always track at a steady upward pace. So when they go down, they never quite go as low as they did before, but they go down and then they go back up and they go down. So being that the case, eventually housing prices are going to go back up if the world isn't over, right? And crazy things aren't happening. It's just another common cycle of life. Normal biases saying, it can't happen, happen. That's how I think a lot of us are. Hopefully, the things don't get worse financially and worldwide. Hopefully, we don't go down the fourth turning. Hopefully, we don't get into a confrontation with China and Russia that sparks World War III. Hopefully, we are able to turn the economy country around. And if so, it's going to require sound economic thinking, understanding the fact of, what's national debt? Why is it not cool that we're 31 trillion in debt? How do we stop that? Understanding that even though life sucks right now and it would be great if we had a $10,000 check from the government, understanding that when you get free money, it's really not free, it's coming from you. We, the taxpayers, fund the government. So when they do that, they're ripping us off. And ultimately, when you pay that student loan, right, it's that money's just going to those banks. So all that's happening is you owe 40,000, right? So there's this number in your bank like that says negative 40, right? Say that's what you owe. The government gives you 10 grand, but they don't give you 10 grand. The 10 grand goes to B&B Bank of whatever. And now it just says you owe negative 30. But in another couple years, back at over 40,000 again because of interest, right? It's damned if you do, damned if you don't. So who are they really helping? They're just giving millions and billions out to banks, right? They're, yeah, reducing your debt a little bit, but most people have way more than 10 grand in student debt. So to take something like that as an initiative, we as Americans have got to understand that we've got to do what's right for the better of our country, not just what may help us. So we've got to learn to make decisions that are truly educated and thoughtful. I don't think so though, man. We've got a gang of dumbasses here in this country and people that don't even think. I'm not apolitical. I'm apolitical. I'm neither Republican or Democrat. I'm an independent, and I'll flip flop any damn I choose based on the topic. So if Republicans are going to act a certain way, maybe I'm down with them, maybe I'm not. Same thing with Democrats. But the way things are going right now, I am totally not on board with the way things are going in the world right now, with allowing little kids to have mutilated uh, genitalia because of stuff. But saying that a 2-year-old can determine their own gender is insanity. I understand having rights and freedoms for people. Great, that's awesome. But trying to say that a 4-year-old child knows this, they're confused kids. We all had questions and weird things. But thank God we didn't have like pink haired, weird, like brainwashed parents that fed into that shit. Because that's what it is. It's just a kid having just weird thoughts. They don't need their parents to tell them, yes, Bobby, you really are a girl. Because every boy probably had a moment where they wondered what it's like to have an innie instead of an outie, or why is mine do this and they say girls do that, or what's it like, and that, or I wonder what's this or that. People have thoughts, especially when you're a kid and you're not sure about things, and the world's like becoming what it is to you. It's not the time you confuse a kid even more and feed into their thoughts. This is the time as a parent you straighten them out and tell them, no, Bobby, you're not a girl, you're a boy. It's okay if you play with dolls. It's okay if you do that, but no, you have this body part, you have that. Now, if a 20-year-old or 18-year-old still saying, because there truly is gender dysmorphia, but it is a mental illness. It's not a fad. It's not something that's cool. It's not something that a lot of people even should or do have. What happens is people have weird thoughts or have weird feelings, and then they get almost groomed into becoming these things now, especially with social media, where truly back in the days there were people that were like that, and there's called gender dysmorphia, where you genuinely feel that you're not in the right body, like you feel like if you're a man that you're really a woman, or vice versa. And that does actually happen, and I feel bad for those people. And usually it's mental health help and the drugs to balance the brain, to get the chemical, to get the brain in the right mode, to get them back to where they need to be. And in rare cases, fine, then dive right in. Man turned into a woman, woman turned into a man, but that's very rare. And a lot of the old schoolers have already all detransitioned. They were like, oh, wasn't a good idea, right? And so now, though, instead of just a few, it's like almost every city and school has like 20 or 30 of them running around. And like I said, nothing against them. I genuinely feel that people should be loved, accepted, and treated. It's just we also need to have some kind of common sense about how we approach things with children. So it's a touchy subject, and that's why I kind of dance around it. As far as that, I completely respect and understand uh, transgender and children's rights. It's just there's a balance, right? There's a line, and so where does that go? You look at where the world's going. Like I said, let's tie all this in with the little bow, and we're going to be done for the night. So you look at the fact that where does this all lead back to? The World Economic Forum. They talk about the Great New Reset. The Great New Reset specifically talks about the family being bad, white men being bad, that they're just all these just different weird notions that are really kind of crazy and cuckoo. Go look it up if you don't believe me. The Great Reset. They literally want to have us living in like pods and eating bugs. They literally want us to own nothing but yet be happy, almost like the Matrix. Like they all want us plugged into this metaverse that Facebook's planning, living in these little small cubicles with as small a stuff as we need to survive, but yet satisfied, and then we don't own anything, right? That's literally what they want us to be. Are these just like mindless consumers, right? And let them do what they want to do. And with the internet, it's just harder for these people to get away with it and people not see what's going on. And you look at George Soros backing these no bail DAs. Look, I understand we need police reform, but there's bad cops. There's plenty of racist incidences. There's plenty of bad incidences, but there's plenty of good ones. There's plenty of other things too. There's a yin and the yang. There's bad things in life. We should address those and fix them, but not overcorrect and attack the good, right? So we don't defund the police. We should train them and change them, not get rid of them. We should help them and adapt them, fire the bad ones, promote and excel the good ones so they can train and create more good ones like them, and hold them accountable when things are done wrong, and properly give them the tools and training, and build better relationships with the community. It's a no-brainer. You know, police shouldn't be hated, but they also shouldn't necessarily be feared. So it's a catch 22, but there is a solution. We just have to come together to talk about it. And again, you look at everything: housing market crash, recession coming, financial problems coming, tax issues. They're raising our taxes. They're gonna hire 85,000 more IRS agents. Is going to be more audits for the average Joe, who's just not like dirt poor but lives normal life, not rich. They're going to come after you because they're going to tell you better to come after the average Joe and give a bunch of them $500 to $1,000, like, hey, you owe us, and we can't do shit about it, and we're not going to have an attorney, and we're not going to fight the IRS over $1,000, because then they'll tell us we owe them even more, or they'll go through even more taxes and then find more stuff, right? Yeah, and then it turns into 7 grand now you owe them, and they'll take your house if you don't pay them, right? So you just pay them so they'll leave you alone. They go after rich people. Rich people have lawyers, so it's easier if they wanted $1 billion to take $10 or take, let's say, $1,000 from 1 million people than to take $1 million from 1,000 rich people. You know what I mean? It's way easier to take $1,000 from 1 million normal people. You see what I'm saying? So this is all set up damn near, it looks like, as far as the people that pull the strings in the world. The green energy, these cars, the electric cars, the going green, the push for solar and everything renewable. When there's so much more to this than that. I could talk for hours about how this is all tied together. It's crazy. But when you look at the three main things that I'm talking about tonight: recession, economics, the cryptocurrency, the stock market, housing market, are going to come crashing down. And it has started already, and it will continue to do so for the next few years until it bottoms out. In which case, again, hopefully, as long as the world don't go hell in a handbag, it'll start rising up again and things will start getting better. in which now is the time to get ready to invest. Don't invest now because things are going to get worse. So, but be prepared and be frugal so that when times start to tip, you can jump right in and start picking up. And when that glimmer of hope appears and things start picking up, the market will start turning around and people start loaning money easier. You get in right in as soon as that thing starts turning around. And watch out for false turnarounds because that'll happen during the dip. Usually, this is the dip's going to take minimum 4 or 5 years to hit bottom out. Might even take 6, 7, 8. Um, because of how big it is. It's massive. This next one coming is going to make 2008 look like a joke because it's going to be everything hitting at the same time. It's going to be our national debt. It's going to be the fact that China and Russia are trying to get off the petrodollar. And if they do and they manage to pull enough of the world off the petrodollar, we're screwed. And we're going to see hyperinflation like Venezuela and everywhere else did back in the days. We're going to be in a real bad spot here if that happens. So, it's crazy. So I say, in my opinion, just keep your head up, eyes open, ears open, and listen more than you speak, and watch out what's going on. Keep your finances ready. Pay off your debt if you got it, and or now is the time to go bankrupt then, so that in 7 years, when the market's starting to turn around, you've already done served your bankruptcy time, and you're ready to rock and roll and get up on the next wave. Because now it's going down, you'll have a good 4 to 7, 8 years between going down and the bottom. Might only be 4 or 5, but it ain't going to hit the peak again then for another 5, 6 years, right? It's to take 5 or 6 years to climb back up. So between the peak here and then the valley and the next peak will be 8, 9, 10 years. So there's plenty of time in between that, right? So that's just what I wanted to talk about tonight. I hope you guys enjoyed tonight's live stream and the subject. If you're new here, smash that subscribe and like button. I'm going to be doing these live streams following Common Sense Fishing every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. I'm going to try to get a lot better at honing down the specific subject, bringing some more notes to the discussion, and specifically hitting subject by subject and trying to be a little bit less jumpy, because honestly in my mind all this is one big picture. It's like the connect the dots and it's all connected. It's just really hard to properly draw the picture for you guys because it's such a large picture and there's so many things that encompass it, and everything is semi-connected. I could be talking, next thing you know I'm talking about how after 9/11 and and Bush and Cheney and Rumsfeld and all these people, how they were involved with all these companies and how there was an oil spill and how the companies got paid more money to clean up the oil spill than what the oil was worth. So had they sold all this oil, they would have got X amount of dollars. But because it spilled, the same company also owns through proxy the oil cleanup company. And the government pays the oil cleanup company more money than the oil was worth. And this is all in the Cheney and Bush and Rumsfeld families, Halliburton, all that good stuff. The crazy stuff that went down, 9/11, the Patriot Act, and the Patriot Act leading to Julian Assange, Edward Snowden. The stuff that they released was already talked about. We already knew about it. All they did was just reiterate what the Patriot Act said. In the Patriot Act's writing, it says, in case of X, we have the ability to do X, Y, and Z. So then now X happens, and 5, 10 years later, they're doing X, Y, and Z, but they're just not telling us about it. And now they tell us about it, and now they want to throw a big stink. Well, guess what? Those of us who have been paying attention for the last 20 years, we've known about the spying. We've known about the fact that Alex Jones is calling it out. The new smart TVs, the government will be able to turn on the camera and watch you bang your wife through the smart TV in your bedroom. They're going to listen in on you. They can watch you. They can track you. They know where you're going with your cell phone everywhere. You've accepted all these stupid, big old long user agreements just so you can jump on the Wi Fi or have this stupid little feature. You didn't read all the fine print. And that opens doors, not to mention the Patriot Act. They don't even have to ask, right? And we knew about this. So then Edward Assange and Edward Snowden and Julian Assange come out and tell us, I forget which one which, because one, I think it was Snowden, leaked the military tapes blowing up innocent people with Apache helicopters, and they were mad about that. Like, man, that's kind of jacked up. Those two dudes should not be, they should be like whistleblower status, really. They're not traitors. Our government was doing some bad shit. We got called out on it. And you want to call them traitors? Look, man, I know we got to kill people sometimes for freedom or for us to be safe. Like some bad guys got to die when they're really bad guys. But when we're faking shit, staging shit, and doing crazy stuff, no, 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 no. I don't get to fly just because we're America. You don't get to go kill people like what we did to Gaddafi, what Hillary Clinton did. See, this is just, it's all connected, it's all tied together. You can just, it's so nuts. But in order to refrain from sounding like a tinfoil hat where I got to bring the receipts, we're going to start one story at a time, and we'll tie this whole narrative together by the end of maybe a year or two. We'll do enough videos. We'll be able to cover all this all, and we'll start painting some kind of cool big picture for you guys. Because I see it in my head. I see how. I don't know. I don't know who's doing what and what's what, but I can tell you we were lied to for sure about 9/11. I believe, but I don't know about JFK being lied to about that. Martin Luther King. I know for a fact in textbooks, and we know for a fact we were lied to about the Gulf of Tonkin. The Vietnam War was a false flag. There was no reason to get into that. That nobody ever shot at us or hurt us, and we made the lie up so we could go in there, and then we ended up killing like 2 million Vietnamese and then 56,000 American soldiers. Sickening that 2.5 or 2.05 million people died over a fake event. We also know that the Lusitania, or whatever it was called, was a ship, a personal cargo ship in World War One, that the U-boats sank, and that's why we got into World War One, kind of like Pearl Harbor. The problem is we declared we'd be neutral and said we wouldn't do anything, and we wouldn't supply arms or do anything. And then secretly, we were sending ammunition and bombs and arms to France and Britain and all that. And we were doing it via uh, personal, like cruise ships, like the Lusitania. We would send a bunch of people on a cruise. Most of them would all be CIA or government employees, and the ship would be loaded with guns and bombs and ammo, and it would be the guise of a cruise ship. And the Germans caught wind and eventually figured it out, and so they sunk the damn thing. And then we're like, "Oh, how dare you kill all those innocent people? Now we got to go get into World War One." I'm not saying that was a bad idea getting into it, but that whole situation we were all lied to. Pearl Harbor, their whole flock of birds that was on the radar, kind of the whole they let it happen. Why the hell did they put all the fleet into the harbor for no reason? Why did they take all their ships and put them all in one spot? That was like stupid. It's like asking, like, hey, we're gonna let you like really give us a bad black eye because we want to choke you out. So I don't know. Can't prove nothing on that one, but I can tell you for a fact we do know certain things in history. Like I said, the Gulf of Tonkin's been proven. So is the Lusitania. They did a dive, and they found in the sunken ship full of ammo, just like the Germans said, which we lied about and we broke the treaty. So I mean, not saying that it's good to kill and sink the ship, but I mean that was their right. We set a treaty that this and this and this, and then we lied and broke the treaty, just like we did with the Native Americans. So, there's always been some crazy, shady shit going on in the world, in this country, and life in general. So it's cool to talk about it, discuss it, bring light to it. And if anything, I'm not saying we should all go roll up and do anything about anything. Really, honestly, I just think it's good to be educated and to understand the situation and reality in which we live in, and then make the best decisions you can for your family, for your friends, for finances and stuff like that. That's all I'm trying to give advice, talk about as far as like not giving any financial advice or anything like that, but just my insights or my opinions on what's going on. So that's kind of what this channel is about. You know, talking about all kinds of different subjects. Sometimes we'll talk about video games, movies, the culture, right? Like the culture war. Sometimes we talk about news, politics, when certain current events happen. So I look forward to doing a lot more stuff on this channel here. Hopefully, I'm going to have some giveaways coming out soon. I don't know what I'm going to start with. So if you guys want to leave some comments, let me know. What do you think would be a cool item? What would you be interested in? Something autographed, a jersey, a ball. Would you guys want something like that? Otherwise, I could do a gift card or something. I want to kind of start drawing people to the channel here. And then I think once they listen to some of what I have to say, it's interesting. Go take it and with a grain of salt and do some research on your own. See if what I'm saying is even halfway true. And if it is, let it open your mind into the crazy shit I'm saying about what's really going on in the world right now. And you know, like if half of us actually listen to Alex Jones, he says some crazy crap, but like three-quarters of what he said has turned out to be true. And if you let that sink in, that's nuts. Like if we had a quarter for every time Alex Jones was right, Jar, it'd be pretty full. And but if you listened to him 10 years ago, you would swear none of what he said was true. But it turns out almost everything is. It's like what the hell? Everything that we thought was a conspiracy theory 10, 20, 30, 40 years ago, it's all been proven to pretty much be true. At this point, the truth is usually weirder than shit we could make up. Tell you what. So, with that being said, don't stress on it. Just live life. Be happy. Do good unto others. Treat others the way you would like to be treated. Be good. And but just keep your head on a swivel and be smart, man. There's bad people out there. Bad times are coming, but that takes good men and women. Step up to the plate and do what's right. So when life gives you an opportunity and you hit a fork in the road, and you can do what's wrong or you can do what's right, try to be one of them people that's just do what's right. And I think the world is going to work out for better in the end. Usually, so far, good is won out. The world isn't over. We're not exploded and doomed and gloomed. You know, the Mongols didn't take over the world. We don't all speak Chinese or vice versa, right? The Germans didn't take over the world. We're not all speaking German. We're okay. Bad things happen, but hey, we're alive. Be happy. Enjoy life. You got one life, live it. So I'm going to close with that. We'll see you guys on the next one. So hopefully that'll be Wednesday, 8 o'clock, and we'll see you then. So tune in. Thanks for watching.